If you're wondering what a $400,000 house looks like in the city of Conroe, Texas, then this video is for you. Stick around. Hello internet friends, this is Jeff with Jeff West Properties, your host for the Conroe Living Channel, where we identify and celebrate everything that makes Conroe, Texas one of the fastest growing cities in America. As more and more people move into the area, there are still others who have Conroe on their radar as a possible place to move, either for better cost of living or a better place to raise their family. Whatever the situation is, you may be wondering what your budget will get you. So I started a series on what X amount will look like on the real estate market, from $300,000 all the way up to $1 million. And today we're focusing on the $400,000 budget. I'm going to start with a map tour so you can see all of the neighborhoods that have the $400,000 price range throughout the city of Conroe. And then we're going to go on a literal tour where I show you some examples of what those houses look like. Now, it's important to note that a $400,000 budget in one state may not be the same thing as a $400,000 budget in the state of Texas when it comes to your mortgage. And the reason for that is insurance rates are going to be different, property taxes are going to be different, and in Texas, unfortunately, we have one of the highest property taxes in the nation. So you want to factor all that in. If you want to know what that budget really looks like, you can just give me a call. I'd be happy to walk through it with you.
Okay, pulling up the trusty Jeff West Properties Conroe Living map. Let's take a look at the neighborhoods where you could find this price point. Now keep in mind, these are not going to be exclusively $400,000 neighborhoods. You've got houses of different sizes, and if the average cost is, say, $200 a square foot, 500 square feet is a $100,000 difference. So most of these you're going to find somewhere in the 300s to 500s, and some of these communities are in the low twos all the way up to the millions. Okay, let's start with resale homes. These are homes that are at least a year old, they've been lived in, they're not being sold directly from the builder. I'm going to go counterclockwise around the map, and as I go through these communities, I'll try to give you the approximate date in which they were built so that you know about how old the houses are. Okay, let's start with the neighborhood of Watercrest on Lake Conroe. This neighborhood was built mid-2010, so it's relatively new. Next, we have the villas at White Oak Ranch. This is a 55 and up community, again built mid-2010, so fairly new. Moving over to just above the Northwest Loop, just west of 45, we have Greystone Hills and Laurel Ridge at Greystone Manor. Started being built in the early 2000s up until just a few years ago. Then moving west, we have off of FM 3083 and Highway 105, Wedgwood Falls. This is a really new community, late 2010s, early 2020s. Then further west, by the western shore of Lake Conroe, just above Highway 105, we have the Hills of Westlake. This community was built mid-2010s and continued in the early 20s. Then if you go due south of there, on the south side of Highway 105, we have the Woods of Conroe, again built in the late 2010s. If you'll notice, most everything in the northwest corridor area has been built within the last decade in this price range. If you keep going west down Highway 105, you'll come to April Sound, which is a Lake Conroe community. Started building in the 1980s, I believe, and they're still building some customs today. Then a little west of there, you have South Shore Estates and Cape Conroe, both in the same area. We're now in the city of Montgomery, and both of these were built starting in the late 80s up until the 90s. On the peninsula above those communities, you have the neighborhood of Walden. I used to live there, great community. Houses built in the 80s, and there are still some customs being built today. This is another community that has houses from the low twos all the way up to the mid-millions. Heading back southeast, just to the west of the loop off of Highway 2854, you have McDade Estates. This is a more established community. They started building in the 70s, some really nice older houses out there. Heading south from there, you have Wood Forest, which is a crossroads of Conroe, the Woodlands, Montgomery, and Magnolia. It's in the city of Montgomery. One of my favorite communities. Houses started being built there early 2000s. Going back up to the southwest loop, just west of 45, we have Woodhaven Forest, built in the 2010s. And right next to that is another one of my favorite neighborhoods, Grand Central Park, also built in the mid-2010s, two relatively new communities. Grand Central Park also has new homes being built as well. South of the Loop on the east side of 45, you have Stewart's Forest. Started being built in the 2000s to around the mid-2010s. Just below that, you have the neighborhood of River Plantation. That's where I grew up. Houses started being built there, I believe, in the early 70s. My grandfather built one. It was before I was born, so probably late 60s, early 70s. Building continued into the 90s, and I want to say there are some custom homes still being built in the area. Going down to FM 1488, just west of I-45, you have the neighborhood of Jacobs Reserve. It started being built in the 2000s. Further west and north of FM 1488 is the neighborhood of Foster's Ridge. This is another one built in the late 2010s. Below 1488, just off of 45, you have the neighborhood of Windsor Lakes. Those were built in the early 2000s. Then on the east side of I-45 on 242, you have the neighborhood of Harper's Preserve, one of my favorites. Started being built in the early 2010s. On the north side of 242, just above there, you have Montgomery Creek Ranch that was built in the late 2000s. Then moving up to the southeast loop, just off of Conroe Porter Road, you have the neighborhood of Ladera Creek. Started being built in the late 2010s, and they're still building today. A little east of there, you have Barton Woods, Barton Creek Ranch, also built around the same time, late 2010s. Finally, we have the neighborhood of Cedar Woods, which is on the northeast side, just above Highway 105, inside the loop. And this is another community where they started building in the mid-2010s. Now, you may have noticed that the majority of these neighborhoods have been built from the 2000s up till now. That coincides with the growth that Conroe's been experiencing. And we're not done, so we have a lot of new homes that are still being built today in new home communities. And that's what we're going to look at next. But before we do that, if you are getting value from this video, I would certainly appreciate you subscribing to the channel and giving the video a like. The more interaction a channel gets, the more that YouTube will put it in front of more people. So it really helps the channel to grow. Okay, now let's take a look at the new home communities. We've got builders such as Anglia, Camillo, Castle Rock, Centex, Chesmar, David Weekley, DH Homes, DR Horton, Empire, First America, Highland, History Maker, Kendall, Lakeridge Builders, Lennar, LGI, Meritage, MI Homes of Houston, Perry, Pulte, Stylecraft, Starter Homes of Texas, and Tripointe, all building homes in this price range. So let's look at the new home communities. Starting in the north and going counterclockwise, we have Montgomery Oaks, which is off of League Line Road west of I-45, Canyon Creek, which is between League Line, Longmire, and 3083, Wedgewood Forest, just north of Highway 105, going out towards the lake, Hills of Westlake, which is on the west side of the lake, hence the name, West Ridge Cove, which is just to the west of that, Pine Lake Cove, which is just west of April Sound on the south side of 105, Fairwater, which is below the lake on Highway 2854, Wood Forest, which I mentioned earlier in the resale homes, Foster's Ridge, which is southeast of Wood Forest, just north of Highway 1488, Harper's Preserve, another community I mentioned earlier, which is on East 242, Dogwood Forest, a smaller community just one street past Harper's Preserve, Artavia, which is another one of my favorite communities, further east down 242, Mavera, which is just above Artavia, Ladera Creek on the southeast loop, which we mentioned earlier, Barton Creek Ranch, another community that we mentioned earlier on the southeast loop, and finally, Venetian Pines, which is right in the heart of downtown, just above Highway 105. So now that we know where they are, let's take a look at what they are.
We are in the neighborhood of Ladera Creek, and we're standing in a new home from Stylecraft Homes. It's a 4-bedroom, 3-bath. Let's check it out. We're in one of my favorite neighborhoods in Conroe, Grand Central Park, and we're gonna look at a Perry home. It's brand new, they're just finishing up, doing the finishing touches. It's 3-bedroom, 2-bath, 2,100 square feet. Let's check it out. We're in the neighborhood of Laurel Ridge at Greystone, and the house we're gonna be looking at is over 3,000 square feet. It's 2-story, built in 2017, 4-bedroom, 3.5 bath. Let's check it out. Hopefully this was useful information to you. If you didn't get an answer to the questions you were looking for, you can always give me a call, send me a text, email, and I'd be happy to answer any questions that you have. I've helped people from all around the nation to relocate here, and I'd love the opportunity to help more people call the city that I love so much home. Maybe you're not sure exactly what your budget is, and you may want to look at the different price points as well. I've got several videos that you can check out here.